All right, so just so y'all know, this is part of another lecture that I was doing and I was working on, right? But Minister Carnes had asked me to present some information on the subject matter because he was teaching it here. So I decided to pull a huge portion of my original lecture and present this to y'all. So two-part, because this is an extremely comprehensive, complex subject. It's not settled in academia, it's still being discussed. So all I'm doing is giving you my insight in regards to this, which will complement what Minister Carnes also have shared. Now, what I want to do is this. Part one is just the teaser. So y'all gonna be a little bit mad when we get towards the end, but y'all be all right. So hopefully y'all come and make it to part two, because part two is really gonna go down, all right? But before we can get into that, I have to pretty much lay down a foundation, okay? And this is gonna be some good information, so please take notes. If you have questions, you can ask afterwards. Let me just get through it. I'm gonna try to be as quick as possible. It's only 26 slides. See, I'm doing better. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing better. It's 26 slides, all right? All right, so the name of the topic is El Shaddai, YHWH, El Elyon. Three of a kind or one and the same, insight into the identity of ancient Israel's patron deity. All right, so before we begin, can anybody tell me what they think El Shaddai means? Anybody, raise your hand, just give me some insight. All right, somebody said something. Yes? You raise your hand. Look at that, the youth is beating y'all to it, come on. Yes, she said it means almighty. Okay, that's good. Anybody else?
God of destruction.
Man, listen, don't mess up my message, man. Anybody else? You've been doing some studying, man. You play too much. Anybody else? No? Okay. So, what about YHWH? Because that has been a proper noun appellation, but can anybody tell me what YHWH means?
The one who exists.
He who exists? Okay, anybody else? Self-existent one, anybody else? Somebody said the Most High. Okay, anybody else? The eternal one, okay, we're gonna get into it. Next one, what does Elyon mean?
The Most High.
The Most High. So wait, so this means Most High and this means Most High? Are y'all sure about that? So you said Elyon, somebody said it means the Most High. Anybody else? Going once? Twice? Sit? So, okay, so keep moving. All right. So what about these two? We're going to get into this too. What does three of a kind mean? Anybody here play poker? Or have played poker? All right, what's three of a kind? Same soup or what else?
Trips.
So what?
Trips.
Trips or triplets or triple what? Triple what? Go ahead. Somebody's, come on, yo.
Three of the same.
Three of the same, but they're not the same card, but three of a kind, meaning that they are what? Same value, different suit, or suit, excuse me. Same value, different suit, correct? Okay, because I used to play poker a lot. Don't tell nobody. All right. And what does one and the same mean? Synonymous, that's good. Anything else? Equal. Okay, cool. All right, let's go. All right, part one, I'm gonna give you some background information, all right? You ready for this?
Sir.
All right. Now, if you want to live stream, that's fine. There's some people, because we don't have Wi-Fi here, I can't live stream it, so I'm recording it. So if you want to live stream, take pictures, I'm okay with that. All right. This is do our best to keep the volume down so that way I can capture as much as I can. And if there's any question, like I said, hold it till later on, all right? All right, so it's slide one. All right, slide two. Let's go to defining the names of ancient Israel's patron deity. So names consist of a proper noun, consist of a common noun, consist of an epithet, etc. Okay? So the first one is El Shaddai. So some people said, what does El Shaddai mean? Somebody said war, somebody said destruction. Anything else? I know somebody said what? Almighty, right? Yeah. That's interesting. Let's get into it. So I pulled this from the Enhanced BDB, which is the Brown Driver Briggs, which is a lexicon. I was going to get my other lexicons, but I'm like, you know what? This is easier to access because you can get this for free online to fact check and validate what I'm teaching. All right? I don't want to say or teach anything to you that I cannot give you a reference or a source to. So people out there saying Divine don't show sources, that they say Divine don't show sources, then they obviously have not watched the stuff that I put out. I source everything. All right, but this you can access for free online. That's why I'm using it, because you can go ahead and go back over what I'm saying. So, Shaddai is a masculine noun of a deity. They said that the etymology is dubious, which means it can mean different things, right? One of the definitions they give it, or one of the semantic range values, range from sufficient, and there's other ones that say it means almighty, but it can also be an intensive noun, right? And it can also mean to deal violently, not simply mightily. Whoa, wait. Let's go back over that again. Because I know I was taught that Shaddai meant the Almighty. And that sounded great. And you can sell me on that. Like, oh, he's almighty. But when you go into the language a little deeper, you see it means something else. Y'all quiet in here. Whoa, okay. Listen, I'm not making this up. I'm showing you the reference. Any lexicon outside of this will also validate what I'm saying. So the question is, how come we don't see any translations that say that? Man, you're really quiet in here. All right. It keeps going on. It says omnipotent. It could be a sovereign Lord, it says. All right. In Assyrian is Sadu, which means high. Elu Sadu Ah. And also give you a reference to Isaiah 2 and 14, I think that is. I don't know why it looks like that. Or Sadu, meaning a mountain, also a proper name. Now, this noun comes from a root verb. Okay? And the cow stem, that root verb, means to deal violently with, despoil, devastate, ruin, obstruct, arrest, make firm, and in the Ethiopic it means to expel, and sadadu in the Akkadian it means to draw or to drag. All right, let's go back over this again. It's deep, because I was taught this meant the Almighty. Why are people teaching me this means the Almighty and it actually means something else? Why? Is it because they don't want people to see exactly what's going on? Because if you understood it culturally, it may not be appeasing. It may not be pleasant. Uh-oh. Y'all quiet.
Yeah, or just say again, the Ethiopian and the...
Oh, the Ethiopic is to expel, and the Assyrian sadadu means to draw or to drag. But late Hebrew in the Nephal stand, Arabic means to stop up, obstruct, arrest, and make firm. But then we also see it means to deal violently. So we see that some kind of struggle, action, despoil, destruction, some kind of mighty force, something is going on, even to the point where something's being dragged. Now it's interesting because Abraham was in Haran when he got called by the Most High, right? And then he got taken from when he was at. People say, oh, he was asked to go. Okay. Well, if we go look at the epithet of the deity, it literally can mean to drag or to draw. That's deep. Something's going on under the surface that they don't want you to see. So again, what kind of destruction or despoil or violent or some kind of might or obstruction, what is going on here? Why does this deity El have this epithet for Shaddai? Let's keep going. And you see, it's interesting because another rendering that I would like to say is that it comes from the root word shad, which means breast. It could be the sustainer of. You have your suffix there, your yod suffix. It'd be a possessive construct. And I was, trying to kind of work it out to mean something that sounds really nice, right? But then this is the reality. Let's move forward. Yod He Wav He. All right. So if you look at the root verb, which is what? Hey Wav He. What does that root verb mean in a cow stem in Hebrew? You said he was? Okay, could it be a stative verb or is it an imperfect verb? Perfect verb, right? Perfect means what? It means completed. Or some people will say past tense, right? But when you add a yod prefix to a root verb, what does that indicate? Anybody here do their Hebrew studies? Mr. Hebrew's back there, so I know he's going to answer all of this. Anybody else? When you affix a yod prefix to a perfect noun, what does that mean?
Imperfect.
Imperfect. Okay, what else? Third person, masculine, singular. Okay? Now this is interesting because that's how we would normally render it, right? So you have your perfect verb, which is hawa, which means to be, or like he said was, because technically it is a perfect verb. And when you add yod, you make it in the imperfect tense, which means what? An incomplete action or something that will be done, or it be present, right? Third person, which is what? He, she, they. Masculine, so it can only be he or they. And singular, which means it's he. But let's read this, because there's other renderings of how Yod He Wav He can be interpreted based on how we discover in the text. On Literature of Interpretations, they say it could be, it says many recent scholars explain Yod He Wav He. So we have a Yod, we have our Patak underneath. He, we have a Shewa, we have a Wav, we have our Segol, and then we have our He at the end. Excuse me, Zere, and we have a He at the end. So if we look at it in the Hethel stem, which some people render it as, it could be the one bringing into being, or he that causes to exist. That's another popular rendering of this. Right? And again, this is another deep, comprehensive study I'm not going to get into, but I want you to understand something. It can also be rendered as a life giver, giver of existence, a creator, he who brings to pass, a performer of his promises, or from Hey Yod He, which means he who causes to fall, rain, or lightning. Keep that in mind. Let me say it again. I'm saying a lot of things because this stuff is important as we get through it. Another, I would say, semantic value could be he who causes to fall in regards to rain or lightning. This is deep once we start moving through. Compare with others, fallow meaning destroying foes, but most take it as a cow stem, which is the one who is, the absolute, the unchangeable one, the existent, ever-living, as self-consistent and unchangeable, the one ever coming into manifestation, as the power of redemption, all right? He will be it, i.e. all that his servants look for, and he will approve himself, given evidence of being, assert his being. So I'm putting all this on record so you can go back and research this, because even the name itself is another, I would say, 3-hour lecture, 4-hour lecture. It's extremely comprehensive. But what I want you to focus on is not all the common things that we normally see, but I want you to focus on here, he who causes the fall in regards to rain or lightning. That sounds like a storm, right? It sounds like a storm, right? Interesting. Elyon. So here you have Elyon, that's here. It's an adjective, which means high, masculine singular, right? Now, Deuteronomy 26:19, Deuteronomy 28:1, 1 Kings 9:8. And then we have 2 Chronicles 7:21 of Psalm 97 and 9. It can also be a masculine noun for the highest or most high, probably equal foregoing. So keep this in mind that Elyon is really an adjective that describes something that is high, or the highest, or what we say the most high. Okay? So El Elyon is, El we all know means what? All of us should know what El means in here. Power, mighty one, right? So it's the mighty one that's high. And Shaddai is the mighty one of destruction, dealing with violence, dealing with obstructing something, to drag, to draw. It's deep. Uh-oh. Look at your faces in here. All right. So let's get the idiom definitions that we pretty much laid down. Three of a kind can be the same or very similar. Of cards having the same face value, but of a different suit. Suite, same. A hand consisting of cards having the same face value, but in different suits. This is really, really what it is. It seems to have the same face value, but it's really different things. Okay. One and the same is the same person or thing, used for emphasis. So three of a kind is three different things that on the surface looks the same, but in the background is different. Sounds almost like a trinity, almost, right? Yeah? Three distinct persons, all co-equal, co-eternal, but of the same substance, homoousia. I don't teach that, but I'm just saying. It sounds like that's what that is. Or one and the same, which means it is the same entity, no difference. So the question is, which one of these do you think applies to the patron deity of the ancient Israelites? Hold your answer. We're going to get to it. Let's move forward. All right, now, this is extremely important. I hope it plays. Don't play. I got to play this. All right, so what I want to show you is, what is my methodology? Because methodology is extremely important in order for you to ascertain an objective conclusion. Now, once you get that objective conclusion, then you got to interpret that. And that is what scholars debate and talk about. Is really, I got it. I'm going to try it. Is really how you get towards your answer, right? There's a process to get towards your answer. So I'm not simply just giving you a doctrine or my belief. I'm explaining to you a methodology that's used in academia in order to ascertain this question of identity. Are you following me? How did this power come on the scene? You know, what is it, etc. Okay?
Origins are something that for some reason seem to occupy our attention quite a lot in the world. We're always looking for the beginnings of things. And most of us are sophisticated enough to know that origins are complicated things and messy, and you usually can't find one source of anything. It's usually a big mishmash. So pretty much that's the conclusion that we'll arrive at today. So that's it. But still, I think I have a certain story to tell. That's what archaeologists do, if you didn't know it already. We take little bits of data, pieces of a puzzle, and then we connect dots and make a story. And then 10 years later, somebody comes along and creates a completely different story. And we all like stories, so including our politicians. So let's just go with it.
But pretty much what he's saying is, as an archaeologist, what he does is that he gets a whole bunch of data, he collects data, he peruses through the data, and from that data, they come towards a conclusion that they then turn into a narrative to kind of explain what's going on. So a lot of times, like if you read certain books like The Bible on Earth, how many of you have read that by Israel Finkelstein?
What's the name of it?
The Bible on Earth. Oh, it actually plays it. The Bible on Earth. Well, anyway, if you read that, Israel Finkelstein is an archaeologist, a Jewish archaeologist, and what he did was he did several excavations, right? Even though he wasn't on every excavation site, and it was some data that he overlooked in order to come to his conclusion, but pretty much he came to a conclusion, and if you read the book, he created a narrative based on the data that he was using as a point of reference. And that narrative was supposed to tell how Israel began, all right? So again, what I'm going to attempt to do is, after looking at the data, is to create a narrative, because I've looked through the text, and I've looked through the archaeological records, and sister cultures, which we're going to see, and I've created a narrative to try and help explain to you what's going on by looking at the big picture. Because if you look at it isolated, you're going to miss bits and pieces, all right? All right, so now we're going to go into the narrative by DivineProspect, all right? Hopefully you enjoy it, okay? Nobody sounds excited, but it's okay. Let's keep going, all right? So let's start off in the beginning. Now, does anybody want to read for me? Anybody? Okay, you're going to need one of these mics. It's not really working that well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the narrative up front, and then I'm going to give you the text reference at the bottom. Don't worry if you can't read it. I will recite it so that way you guys can jot it down.
Is there a specific version you want me to read?
Yeah, I'm going to give you, go to Genesis 1 and 1. Got it?
What?
Genesis 1 and 1?
King James or man?
Do ESV. Yeah. Genesis 1 and 1. All right, so the narrative is the divine counsel involved in the creation of heaven, earth, and the host therein. So this subject of what's called the divine counsel, the heavenly hosts, or however you want to, heavenly court, however you want to term it, is something that academia is now gradually leaning more towards. All right, when looking at the scriptures in this ancient Near Eastern context, they identified that this divine counsel or this heavenly court is something that is an actuality that the pre-exilic Israelite culture or people actually believed, all right? So, you can go to Genesis 1 and 1.
In the beginning, God created heavens and the earth.
In the beginning, he said, God created the heavens and the earth. Now, the reason why we start to investigate this to try and identify what a divine counsel is because Hebrew grammar has specific rules, all right? Now, these rules apply most of the time, but there's some instances where certain things break the rules, all right? So the Hebrew clause normally goes from verb, subject, object, all right? There's places in the scriptures where that's broken, but it's very few and in between, right? Here, in this case, when you have a noun and a verb, they must agree in person, they must agree in number and gender. Okay? Person, gender, and number, PGN. All right? In this case, we have a situation where Elohim is rendered as a plural, a third person, plural, masculine, right? Excuse me, not third person, masculine, plural. And then the verb that we get there is in the singular, the third person masculine singular. Now in Hebrew, the number of the noun must match the number of the verb. And because Elohim is technically a plural noun, then the verb bara that's there should also be plural, but it's singular. Why is that? Now some people try to explain this by saying it's the majestic plural, right? Majestic plural can talk about the immeasurability of the Most High, right, as an entity, right? But others would denote it as a collective noun. What is a collective noun? Sorry, my throat is a little bit dry. What is a collective noun? Anybody? Y'all can look it up. It's an open book test. Give me an example of a collective noun.
There? They?
No.
Like a team.
There you go. Who said that?
Team, okay.
There you go. And give me another one. Team, which means that in a sentence, grammatically, it acts as a singular noun, but it denotes plurality.
Dear.
Family, good.
Dear.
You said dear.
Yeah, like D-E-E-R.
Dear, it could be plural, you saying, or singular.
I think so. I don't think you ever put an S.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Anything else? Crew? There you go, that's good. So now you're understanding this. So now, in order to best interpret this, it would be best interpreted as a collective noun. Now, in ancient pre-Israelite culture, they did not believe in what we deem to be called polytheism, right? What's polytheism? Many powers, right? And any one of these powers can be served or worshipped at any given time, and everything will be all right, okay? You also have two other proposals, right? One could be henotheism, which it means what?
The belief in multiple gods, the worship of one.
The acknowledgement of the existence of other deities, but you get into what's called monolatrism, which means you single one out for exclusive worship, but you identify that there's other entities that exist, okay? Monotheism, from the root word monos, which means one, which means there's only one power, and everything else does not exist. This could be a figment of your imagination, it could be an idol, whatever the case may be. Now, I'm not here to tell you what to believe, but the reason why I'm interpreting as divine counsel is because it's going to work in the context of what we're about to get into, all right? So get Genesis 1:26.
Then God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth.
So does it say, I'm going to make man in my image? So in Hebrew, you have what's called jussives, you have what's called cohoratives. Do y'all know what those terms mean in Hebrew? It could be, so a cohortative, jussive could be anything like a suggestive command or something like that, right? So in this case, it's in a cohortative, but it's in the plural. Let us make man. Well, how do you explain let us make man grammatically in Hebrew unless there was more than one entity there? Oh, thank you. Anybody? You're like, Divine, you bugging out. I don't know what you're talking about. So you read Genesis 1:1, right? It says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Okay, it's giving you a summary, and then it breaks everything down, right? So if you look at this and say, nah, I don't believe that's the case. So when you go to Genesis chapter 1 and 2, talk about the Spirit hovering over the waters, the primordial waters, right? And then it goes in further, where there's supposed to be a separation, and then a population, separation, population. But let's get Job 38, verse 4.
Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth?
Where were you? Now, this is who speaking to who?
Y'all speaking.
Let's get context. So the Most High speaking to who? Job. Go ahead.
Tell me if you have understanding. Who determined his measurements? Surely you know. Or who stretched the line upon it? On what were its bases sunk? Or who laid its cornerstone? When the morning...
Whoa! Slow down. So now we see Yah just bragging, doing what he do. Okay? But then he gets to something very peculiar. Yeah, read that.
When the morning stars...
When the morning stars sang
together, and all the sons of God...
Wait a second. And all who?
The sons of God.
Who?
Sons of God.
Wait a second. You said there were sons of God there that was watching while he's laying the foundation of the earth? Word? So he had an audience? He was just showing off for an audience. Is that, wait, did I write that? Does that have my name on it?
No.
I don't have the copyrights on that, right? I didn't make that.
No.
Finish reading that. What?
And all the sons of God shouted for joy.
Wow. Interesting. Again, trying to give you some background on what's called the divine counsel for a reason. We're getting somewhere. All right? Now, once this is laid down, now we have L. Never mind the YHWH that you see there. That's an anachronism. What's an anachronism? Anybody? We see a lot of these. Say again.
Something that's out of place in time.
Correct. So, and people always use the example all the time. If I talk about New York, and I said, Joe, the Europeans, they went and they discovered New York. It wasn't called New York when they went to discover it. It had another name. The natives called it another name, and it first got a name called New Amsterdam, but later on it was called New York. When you see the takeover, the transition of ownership. So an anachronism is, if I'm telling you a story about something that happened a long time ago, and And I'm using a word that you can recognize now, but at that time, it wouldn't have been recognized. You got it? But I'm using it to help tell the story to our audience who will be familiar with the terms that I'm using.
Right.
Okay. So if you're looking at it in its historical context, El then has a relationship with man, right? Genesis 2, 16 to 17.
And I'm just reading what it said here.
That's fine, yeah, that's fine.
And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, you may surely eat of every tree of the garden, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat. For in the day that you eat of it, you shall surely die.
So we see that now the deity, after man was created, he is now speaking to the man. There's a relationship established, okay? Go to chapter 3, verse 9 to 13.
But the Lord God called to the man and said to him, where are you? And he said, I heard the sound of you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, and I hid myself. He said, who told you you were naked? Have you eaten of the tree which I commanded you not to eat? The man said, the woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me the fruit of the tree, and I ate. Then the Lord God said to the woman,
What verse is that?
13.
Okay, finish up.
Then the Lord God said to the woman, what is this that you have done? The woman said, the serpent deceived me and I ate.
Okay, so what I'm simply trying to get to you here is not going to that particular story, but I'm showing you that El has a relationship where he's speaking with these mere mortals, or these humans. Okay? You following me? Okay. Get Genesis 4, 6 to 7, and it's continuous. Go ahead.
The Lord said to Cain, why are you angry? And why has your face fallen? If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin is crouching at the door.
So now the Most High is speaking to another generation of people. After the first generation messed up, he speaks to the second generation and they mess up. You follow me? Get Genesis 4, 6 to 7.
Its desire is contrary to you, but you must rule over it.
Okay, that's Genesis 4, 6 to 7.
Yeah, that's
You finished it? Okay. Go to Genesis 5:22.
Enoch walked with God after he fathered Methuselah 300 years and had other sons and daughters.
Now slow down. Now that word there is halak in Hebrew, which means what? It's translated as walk, right? But it is a verb, and the verb tense is the hitpayo stem, which means that's in a reflective voice. Which simply means it's not talking that he physically walked side by side with the deity. No. But there's some kind of reflective action that's taking place as his act is being performed. But I'm going to let you look up the hitpayo stem. You can do some research and find out what that means. But established here, El has a relationship with man. That's deep. He didn't have to, but he decided to get personal. Okay? Now, get to Genesis 6:3. So we're moving along, we're flying through. Genesis 6:3.
Then the Lord said, my spirit shall not abide in man forever, for he is flesh. His days shall be 120 years. So
some people say mean abide in man, abide with man, or contend with man. You really have to bait preposition that's prefixed to it, can mean in, with, at, whatever the case may be. But the bottom line is that El foreshadows he will distance himself from man by way of removing his spirit. That's deep. That means if he's removing the spirit must have been there prior. We say it again. If he's going to remove his spirit, that means it was there before in some form. Okay. Maybe I'm not hearing me. Get Genesis 6 through 11 to 12.
All right. Now the earth was corrupt in God's sight, and the earth was filled with violence. And God saw the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, and all the flesh had corrupted their way on the earth.
So this is why he's removing that spirit. He's not going to be with man, in man. The spirit is going to be distant, right? This is important. So now because of this, El enacts judgment on man due to wickedness in the earth, which you just read, but go to Genesis 6 and 13.
And God said to Noah,
He chose Noah. Noah was just and righteous. He was a perfect man in his generation. So that means you can't be perfect within your generation. That's interesting. It's another subject matter. I touched on that before, but go ahead.
And God said to Noah,
What he said?
I have determined to make an end to all flesh, for the earth is filled with violence through them. Behold, I will destroy them with the earth.
Now, there's some people that will use the book of Enoch in order to explain what took place, right? Because Genesis 6, go all the way up, you'll see that it says the sons of who? Sons of Elohim, or Bene Elohim, sons of God, did what? And then did what? Came unto the daughters of men. Some people would say, well, no, that's talking about the lineage of Seth mixing in with the lineage of Cain. And because of that copulation of the two, now you have corrupted seed. Because the righteous and unrighteous should not be together. It's different things that's debated in academia. I'm not going to tell you what to believe. Simply what I'm trying to show you is because of what happened, El decided to judge man because of the wickedness that came upon the earth. And he did so by what means? A flood. Which required Noah's obedience, get in the ark, bringing one of every kind of animal, clean and unclean. Okay. Clean and unclean. How Noah know what's clean and unclean? Where that language coming from? Indeed. Save that for another time. So after the flood, El divides. Somebody read that. No, read the screen, the narrative.
Then Elohim, however, Israel is reserved for Yahweh.
So this is interesting. After the flood, El divides peoples and lands and assigns them to who? Divine council members. However, Israel is reserved for YHWH. Now this right here is a later thing that's going on. But what I'm going to show you is this. Watch. Genesis 10 and 1.
These are the generations of the sons of Noah.
These are the generations of the sons of Noah. Go ahead.
Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Sons were born to them after the flood.
All right, go to verse 5.
From these, the coastland peoples spread in their lands, each with his own language by their clans and their nations.
And this has to do with who? Japheth, right? All right, go to verse 20.
These are the sons of Ham, by their clans, their languages, their lands, and their nations.
All right. Let's go to verse 31 and 32.
These are the sons of Shem, by their clans, their languages, their lands, and their nations. These are the clans of the sons of Noah, according to their genealogies, in their nations, and from these the nations spread abroad on the earth after the flood.
So something took place. That we see this event that the earth is being, that Noah and his sons are told to repopulate the earth, right? Replenish the earth. But now we see a dividing going on of lands, of people, of languages, etc. Let's see what's going on in the heavenly realm. Go to Deuteronomy 32 and 8.
When the Most High gave to the nations...
Whoa, hold on. When the Most High gave to the nations their inheritance. Go ahead.
When he divided mankind...
When he divided mankind, which we see going on right now. Keep going.
He fixed the borders of the people according to the numbers of the sons of God.
Whoa. Whoa. Wow. Say it again.
When he divided mankind, he fixed the borders of the peoples according to the number of the sons of God. According to the number of the sons of God. When you read verse 9... it says something interesting. Read verse 9. But the Lord's portion...
Wait. But YHWH's portion...
is his people.
So now we see that the sons of El, which we get from the Dead Sea Scroll rendering, and then you get sons of Israel from the Masoretic text tradition. But here's the thing. He's dividing the peoples and the lands. And then you say according to the number of the sons of El. And you're going to be like, okay, that could just mean that whoever these sons of El is, he's just dividing the people according to their number. But when you go and you read the next verse, YHWH, which is a deity, he's choosing a people for himself, which means that Bene Elohim are actually being apportioned different groups of people for them to rule over. Damn, it's deep. Somebody got it. It's heavy. Because this is all going to make sense going on further. So now we see Elyon, we see the Most High, and then in verse 8, verse 9, then we see YHWH. Some people will say, whoa, that looks like two different deities there. Looks like the Most High is here, the council's here, and he's giving them, here you go, here you go, here you go. Then YHWH said, yo, I want to take Jacob. Let me get it. That's mine. And at that time, Jacob didn't exist yet. Right? Cain, Khan. It's deep. It's going to get heavy. But we're going to try to reconcile that. So I see some people inching, get ready to leave lock the door. Let's make sure nobody get out of here. We're going to stay here and we're going to get through this. You can't run from this stuff. You got to deal with it. And we're going to confront it head on, all right? All right. So what I did was, I added a reference, and I'm going to read this. This is extremely important. The reference is called The God of the Patriarchs and the Ugaritic Text, A Shared Religious and Cultural Identity by Jed Robinson. All right? So me personally, if a source is giving good information, I may not subscribe to the theology of that person, but if they cite a source and they give you some background information based on their academic studies, then I can accept that. Because there's a lot of people, even these lexicons are written by Christians. I'm not a Christian, but does that mean that the data is bad? The information is bad? No, you got to do objective studies in academia. This is actually sourced from somebody from Brigham Young University. Do y'all know what BYU is?
Yes.
What theological sect is BYU?
Mormons.
The Mormons. I just wanted to put it out there because if I don't say it, somebody will see it and say, oh look, see Divine, see he's a Mormon. Undercover. You might as well call me a Christian then, I'm using lexicons. But let's read this. This is interesting. The word Elu is used over 500 times in the text of Ugaritic. The most obvious usage of the word is the name of the divine patriarchal God who was the head of the pantheon. Now, we're not going to get into Mormon theology, but we're just looking at this data. El has a role as the father, Ab. So we see a symbol in Hebrew and in Ugaritic because they are what? West Semitic languages. They're more closely related Hebrew and Ugaritic and Hebrew and Aramaic than Hebrew and Greek or something else. All right? He is seated before the divine council, which is considered El's family. It's interesting. As its head, he is portrayed as being elderly and bearded and is often called the ageless one or father of years. Wait, I've seen this in the Bible before. Book of Daniel? That's interesting. Okay. He acts as a help to both the lesser deities and mankind. So he intervenes, right? Interestingly, El is also seen as the creator in the Hurrian Hittite text discovered in Anatolia. El sits on the throne with his consort and wife, Artharat, or biblical Asherah, progenitress of the gods. This is another different subject matter. I don't know if I'm going to touch into it in part 2, but this is just from these cultures identifying this deity, okay? Now listen to this. El attributes as a kind father are expressed in the phrase, kind El, the compassionate. Also read that in the scriptures. Book of Exodus, Deuteronomy talks about his character being compassionate and kind, right? So maybe they all alluded to the same deity, just from different vantage points. Because remember, they was all divided. Are you following? And now you have other divine council members that's over these people, who's also giving them the knowledge of El, and they know about El, and he's the father, the progenitor, the one who created everything, but I'm the one in power right now, so you worship me. That's deep. Okay, let's keep going. Now watch this. The abode of El is described in the Baal myths as being at the source of the rivers amid the channels of 2 oceans. El is seen as dwelling on a remote mountain in the north, with which Cross sees direct biblical correlation in Isaiah 14:13, where the mount of the council of El is referenced to be in the distant north. El is said to dwell in a tent, a pavilion, or tabernacle similar to the biblical Ohel Moed. That's interesting. So I did a Sukkot message. Okay. So the abode of El is described in the Baal myths as being at the source of the rivers, amid the channels of the two oceans. El is seen as dwelling on a remote mountain in the north, with which cross sees direct biblical correlation in Isaiah 14:13, where the mount of the council of El is referenced to be in the distant north. El is also said to dwell in a tent, a pavilion or tabernacle, similar to the biblical Ohel Moed. And that's interesting. And there's a reason why I singled this out. I singled this out because now we see a situation where El is at a distance. But we're going to see something interesting coming up. So El is at a distance. So now he's stepping back. So he was dealing with man personally. Man kept messing up. So he stepped back, let man repopulate, set the borders and everything like that, and then gave ownership of certain peoples and groups and lands to the divine council members. So all right, I'm going to let y'all take over. I'm going to go sit in the background, and I'm going to see what y'all do. Because I tried to deal with man. I'm going to let y'all do your thing. Are y'all following me? This is the narrative. Now watch this. Read Genesis 11, 1-9. Narrative is, mankind, under the rule of the divine council members, resulted in more wickedness with El in the background, so he intervenes. That's deep. Read Genesis 11, verses 1-9.
Now the whole earth had one language.
Whole earth had one language.
And the same words.
And
as people migrated from the east.
Wait. That's Genesis chapter 11, verse 1.
Genesis 11, 1. Now the whole earth had one.
Oh, okay, keep going. I'm sorry. Keep going.
And as people migrated from the east, they found a plain in the land of Shinar and settled there. And they said to one another, come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly. And they had bricks for stone and bitumen for mortar. Then they said, come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its tops in the heavens.
Wait, let's build a city and a tower with its tops where?
In the heavens.
Why did they want to build it that high? So you know, the council members, it said that they dwell on the mountaintops. Somebody got it, but I don't want to reveal this to you. It's really juicy. But keep.
Let us build for ourselves a city and a tower with the top in the heavens, and let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be dispersed over the face of the whole earth. And the Lord came down to
Wait, and who came down?
And the Lord.
What's that word there in Hebrew? Somebody verify, look in your lexicon. Anybody could get it. He what?
Came down.
Wait, he came down. Wait, hold on, wait. What you mean he came down? Can't he see it from where he's at? Why he have to come down? I didn't say that. I'm just saying, why is he coming down? He's in the distant north. He's like, I'm gonna let them rock. I'm gonna see what they're gonna do with mankind, because mankind keep messing up. He ain't listening to me. Now look what mankind's doing without El intervening. I was like, well, hold on, let me go ahead and see what's going on. So they believed that he resided somewhere, and he actually came to see what was going on and intervene, because the council members are not doing their due diligence to ensure that mankind is upholding the degree of righteousness. It's the narrative. Okay, read it.
And came down to see the city and the tower, which the children of man had built. And the Lord said, behold, they are one people, and they have all one language. And this is only the beginning of what they will do.
Now slow down. So to remember, what was the directive in Genesis chapter 10? The scripture says that this is Japheth, this is his lineage, and they are divided according to their language, their clan, their land. So a distinction that Yah made was he divided them purposely to have their own language, their own land. But now when he steps away, gives it to the divine council members, something's going on that's causing the people to say, yo, forget that. Let's do our own thing. That wasn't his intention. That wasn't El's intention for man. But when you leave it to somebody else to do it, this is deep. Listen, we got to confront this stuff. It's deep. I'm not telling you how to interpret it. I'm just giving you the information. Y'all do with it what you want. Okay, what verse you at?
6.
Okay, go to 9. From 6 and 20.
Therefore, its name was called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of all the earth.
So he confused the language so that people can go back to the initial directive. Are you following me? Yes. So they wasn't supposed to all have one language. And this was something else that was going on. They was doing outside of the objective that Yah gave them. Right? So Yah had to go back and put things right again. It's deep. Okay, keep going.
And from there, the Lord dispersed them over the face of all the earth.
Awesome. Let's go to the next verse. Look at this. There's some people that would say, oh man, that story is fake. And you have anybody ever tell you that the Tower of Babel is fake? Raise your hand. Anybody? Yeah. Yeah. Did you know that there's something called the Tower of Babel stele? Did you know that existed? Well, the Tower of Babel was actually an actual architectural building that existed. And we have an outside source, outside of the Bible, that validates that. You can look this up. Here it is right here. Here's a reconstruction of it. And now I'm going to read to you what it says. The Etem and Nanki, Ziggurat, Babibli. The house, the foundation of heaven and earth, Ziggurat in Babylon. Caption identifying the great ziggurat of Babylon, the Tower of Babel. The royal inscription of Nebuchadnezzar continues. Nebuchadnezzar, there's some kind of time difference situation going on here. But that's reconciling you when we get to the commentary. King of Babylon, I am in order to complete the Entamanaki and the Men-Imi Anki. I mobilize all countries everywhere. Mobilize all the countries everywhere. Each and every ruler who had been raised to prominence over all the people of the world. So he's gathering all the people together to work on a project. So he's continuing an effort that initially was thwarted. Are y'all following me? Okay. Loved by Marduk, which is his patron deity, from the upper sea to the lower sea, the distant nations, the teeming people of the world, kings of remote mountains and far-flung islands, the base I filled in to make a high terrace. I built their structures with bitumen and baked brick. Isn't that what you read from the okay. Throughout, I completed it, raising its top to where? The heaven, making it gleam bright as the sun. This is the hubris of Babylon. This is interesting because there's a huge time difference here, right? But remember, the Israelites, they went into Babylonian captivity under who? What king? Nebuchadnezzar. Interesting. So now you're saying that they're reconstructing this edifice to defy the Most High? And the Israelites in captivity and they see this going on while they're in Mesopotamia? It's deep. Okay, let's get a little bit back now. The ziggurat in Babylon was originally built around the time of Hammurabi. This is what they say, from 1792 to 1750. But other scholars believe that it was erected way before Hammurabi, and he just worked on the project and made it greater. So if that's the case, this would have been contemporary with who? Abram. No. Nebuchadnezzar wasn't around during this time, or earlier than this, but Abram was. Do you understand? Because right after, not even right after, in the same chapter, at the bottom, we get Abram coming on the scene, right? So the restoration and enlargement began under Nabopolassar and was finished after 43 years of work under Nebuchadnezzar II, 604 to 562. It has been calculated that at least 17 million bricks had to be made in fire. Babylon with the ziggurat was captured by Kairos 538 BC, who pulled down the 3-stair ramp so the tower could not be used as a fortress. Darius I 519 BC, Cyrus 483 BC, and entirely taken down by Alexander the Great 331 BC due to the structural water damage caused by the removed ramps, but his rebuilding plans failed. It's interesting. So this item was up there as a showcase of the hubris of Babylon, and as a result of that, over time, it got damaged, and the Greeks brought it down. They tried to build it back up, but they couldn't. And the reason why they couldn't is because initially, when this thing was being built, Y'all had to come down and confound it. It's interesting why it still doesn't exist today.
Say it again, Ron.
Yeah.
Repeat what you just said.
Okay.
Repeat what you just said.
Okay, you said the timeline.
Yeah, she wants you to repeat what you just said.
All right.
I'm trying to get who started, well, we get.
Correct.
But then the various leaders.
Correct. So it's believed that it pre-existed Hammurabi, but the earliest mention we have it is during the time of Hammurabi. Okay. So what I was saying was, it's interesting that what happened to this edifice over time, because initially, when the attempts were made, now this was like several attempts to keep rebuilding this thing, and it stopped working every time something happened. It's because initially this was not what Yah intended for mankind to do, because it brings man into what's called the ecumenical state of mind. What is the ecumenical state of mind? Some people believe the Catholic Church is doing this today. What's the ecumenical council that the Catholic Church had called, the Pope had called some time ago? What does that mean, ecumenical council?
Global.
What does word Catholic mean? Universal. So what Pope, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's Pope John Paul? Second.
The one there.
I think it was him. Had called a council where all the religious world leaders came together and prayed together. So you saying this? Come on over, man. You a Hindu? You a Buddhist? Come on over. Muslim, Christian, let's go pray together. And let's show the world that we are all one, praying to the same deity, that we're mistaken as something other because of religion and stuff like that. Okay. So when we see the layout where Nebuchadnezzar was trying to do, bring all the world together to work on this one project to defy the powers that be above him, we see that this same kind of thing is going on today with all these skyscrapers and stuff like that. That's another deep lecture. I'm not going to get into it. I'm showing this to you to let you know that this thing is real. Don't let nobody tell you it's the myth. Give them the source. It's called the Tower of Babel stele. Until now, our knowledge of the Tower of Babel has been based on the account in Genesis 11 and 1:9 and of Herodotus only. And is the history's work with the measurement of the first two stages and a Seleucid tablet of 229 BC, given the sizes of the stages. However, no contemporary illustrations have been known, resulting in a long series of fanciful paintings throughout art history until the present. Here we have the first time an illustration contemporary with Nebuchadnezzar II's restoration and enlargement. That means he didn't create it, he just restored it. An enlargement of the Tower of Babel, and with the capture making the identity absolutely sure. We also have the building plans as well as a short account of the reconstruction process. So before this was recovered, the only thing we had of it was Herodotus, some Seleucid source, and the Bible. People say, oh, that's a fanciful story, it's not real. And then archaeology exhumed this. So now what you say? Oh, I guess that was real. I don't know if this is self-strengthening your faith, I'm just giving you some information. Okay. So now we get to a situation where after the Tower of Babel is done, El has to intervene again because man is doing whatever he wants and the deities are doing whatever they want. So now we have a situation, we have a parenthetical, a parentheses. What's a parentheses? What does that indicate when you're reading something?
It emphasizes.
A what?
It emphasizes something.
Yes, but what else?
An optional alternative name or something.
Or information that it inserts that you need to know before you proceed with the rest, right? Okay. How many of you are familiar with the Epic of Baal and the Baal cycle? 1, 2, anybody else? Okay, I'm gonna give you a summary. But your text reference for this is KTU 1.1 to 1.6. This is the nomenclature that they utilize in order for you to understand which Ugaritic tablets that we're referring to. Okay? Kane Khan? All right. Here's a reference that you can get for free online. It's called Religious Text from Ugaritic. Okay? NY. See reference Religious Text from Ugaritic by NY, pages 34 to 115. All right, now I'm not going to go over a lot of this. I'm going to make it short so I can stay within time constraints. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to read maybe a couple of pages for you, and it's really like this much on each page, and the rest of it is really like commentary. But I want you to get an idea of what this is. Okay, I'm gonna give you the summary of it, so you can see what this is. It's gonna be a real quick summary. All right, you ready? All right, let me give this to you. So here's the synopsis of the narrative, so we don't have to go through all of it, right? So it starts off with an embassy from El to Anat, who's another deity, embassy from El to Cathar, who comes from Crete, summoning deities to Yam's coronation. What does the word Yam mean in Hebrew? What? Yam. Thank you. See. Yes. But in this case, yeah, S-E-A. It's the personification of the sea into a deity. Declaration of El, of Yam's royal status and his coronation. Baal arrives and complains. Kothar is instructed by El to build a palace for Yam. Athar's claim that he has no palace or temple is dismissed. This is, you're gonna be like, what's going on here? I'm gonna summarize it after I read the synopsis. Yam sends messengers to the divine assembly to demand Baal's surrender. Baal reacts violently and is restrained. Kothar supplies Baal with maces with which he kills Yam. He strikes him right to the temple, to his head with it. After that's done, a feast in honor of Baal is done. Anat, which is another deity, is at war, and we also see a theophoric name with the word Anat in the scriptures. She fights in the valley between two towns and wades through gore before going to a temple to perform bloody rites. She then washes. Now, after Baal wins this fight with Yam, he demands a palace be made for him. Keep this in mind. Conflict, then you have the palace, and then you have the banquet. That's interesting. When messages come from Baal, Anat is perturbed, fearing danger to him, and insists that she has already killed Yam and his associates. So they believe Yam is already dead. Why are y'all coming to me? Anat goes to meet Baal and says she will demand a palace and temple for him from El with threats. So now Anat's going to go threaten El to say, yo, now you need to make a temple or a palace for Baal like you was going to make for Yam. This is interesting. Because Yam, Anat, Baal is all supposed to be the Bene Elohim. This is the narrative from Ugaritic. But there's some value in this narrative. Now, we may not subscribe to all of it, but there's some value in the narrative, and I have to show it to you. Otherwise, you're not going to understand who El Shaddai is, YHWH is, and El Elyon. Atharat's assistant is sent to fetch Kothar. Kothar receives instructions and sets to work in his forge, making gifts for Atharat. Anat and Baal come to Atharat with them. She is perturbed until she sees the gifts. Anat and Baal asks her to intercede with El. Atharat goes to El, with Anat attending, and complains that Baal is a king without a palace. That is, a god without a temple. This is really deep as we're going to get into this. Really deep. And this is why I had to stop in the next couple of slides, because it's going to get really heavy, right? El accedes to her request. Anat takes Baal the news. Kothar sets to work. Baal's palace or his temple is completed, and an inaugural banquet is held. Baal tours his kingdom. Baal sends a message to Mot. In Hebrew, what does Mot or Mut mean? Death, right? But it's the personification of death, and it's personified as a deity. Now this is interesting because now it goes to show how Baal got his kingdom. It's deep. Some background information according to the narrative of a sister culture. Does not mean it agrees 100% with the biblical narrative, but there are some similarities. Now as we go on, it says, who replies that since he has not been invited to the banquet, he will feast on Baal. So now Mut is saying, well, y'all didn't invite me to the party. So now I'm going to beef with Baal and I'm going to kill him. I'm going to eat his body. Baal behaves objectively and sends an obsequious reply. Baal is told to enter the underworld. En route, he copulates with the heifer, which bears him a son. Now that sounds kind of crazy. But we see now he was coaxed or he was deceived in going to the underworld. This is interesting. Baal's body is found. El and Anat mourn for him. So now Baal is killed by Mut. And Anat, who's supposed to be his sister, consort, and El, who's the father of the deities or whatever, they mourn for Baal. This is deep. Okay. Shapsh helps Anat recover Baal's corpse. Athar is enthroned on Baal's throne, but comes down from it to rule. So now somebody has to sit in that place since he's dead. And this person, Athar, is enthroned, but comes down from it to rule. Anat encounters Mot and ritually destroys him. El has a vision of Baal's restoration. Obscure conversation between Anat and Shapsh. A restored Baal fights a restored Mot. The struggle unresolved. Shapsh intervenes and restrains Mot. The tablet ends with a hymn to Shapsh and an extended colophon. Now you're going to be like, Divine, why are you reading this stuff to me? That sounds crazy. Are you saying that this is what was going on during that time period? According to the biblical narrative, I'm not saying that this is fully representative of the biblical narrative. What I'm trying to simply show you is that the biblical narrative is not the only narrative with certain characters in it and certain explanations of what's going on in the heavenly realm to justify what goes on in the earthly realm. Are you following me? Yeah. Okay. I'm not going to read the rest of this, but you can get this book for free. I'm going to show it to you again. You can get it for free. If you want me to get it for you, I can do that as well. But what I want people to do is actually read the actual narrative. What we read was just a synopsis, but what we're about to see here is the actual text itself, translated, all right? So let me get out of that. Let me get out of this. So let's go back to the lesson. Let's move forward. Now let me show you something that's really interesting as we go forward, okay? The book again, Religious Text from Ugaritic, 2nd edition by NYI. All right, you got it? Yes? Come on, let me finish. I'm gonna finish up. All right. So the next, why is it not moving? Hold on. Let me do this. All right, hold on. Yeah. Okay, so we're almost done. Almost done. All right, I think we are right here. Okay. All right, yeah, we only got a couple more slides and we're done. Yeah, I know. Huh? She said thank you. All right. Now, Baal is enthroned on where? And rules over Canaan. Transjordan region and Canaan. Because Baal, so let me give you the explanation of what's going on. So in the heavenly realm, El is the chief deity. He's responsible for putting certain deities on certain thrones to rule over certain kingdoms. Are you following me? Yes. Okay. So he decides that a particular area he wants to give to Yah, which is one of the sons of El. Baal finds out about this and said, whoa, nah, I want to be the man. So he comes in and starts complaining like, yo, why are you giving him this throne? It should go to me. Follow what I'm saying? This is the storm god against the sea god. So what winds up happening is Baal says, yo, I'm going to fight Yah. We're going to fight. So then he gets assistance from the other deities. They equip him with a mace. And with that mace, he strikes Yam and kills Yam. It's interesting because we don't have anything there that says El actually mourned over Yam. But because he rightfully killed Yam, now mind you, nobody's competing for El's throne. Nobody's competing for his position. But there's something that's up for grabs for the deities. You're going to be like, yo, Divine, that sounds crazy. I don't believe that until I show you in the Bible. I'm going to show you this stuff going on in the Bible. You're going to be like, what are you talking about? Yeah. What you see in here, terrestrial, something celestial taking place for this stuff to happen down here. Yeah. At least according to these cultures. Are you following me? So after he does that, Again, a theophoric name of Anat is in the scriptures. Anat, she comes and she gets on the scene, and her thing is like, oh, Baal don't have a palace. He's on a throne, but he ain't got no palace. So she beefs, and they try to get other deities involved to try and get El to intercede. So finally they agree. They create a palace for Baal around his throne, and then there's a banquet or a feast. So now during this period of time, Mot is in the underground somewhere. He gets the news. He's like, yo, ain't nobody invited me. So he decides to come to crash the party, and he threatens Baal, say, yo, I'm gonna take your throne now. So now we see things going on here. Now, this could be indicative of how certain groups are fighting, because if Mot is my deity, Baal is your deity, Yam is your deity, well, Yam, y'all may control this area, we worship Baal, we come in and we beat y'all up, we take over. Now Mut, his followers, to say, nah, we want that land, they come and they fight you and put Mut in place, because now remember, Baal is deceived to go into the underworld, so he gets off his throne. Somebody else tries to sit in his place, but Mut is trying to get that throne. These are groups of people that are fighting amongst each other, represented by different deities that we saw divided in Genesis chapter 10. And whenever fights happen, one group wins, then that deity is enthroned. It's deep. It's deep. And then that deity, something happens, and they try to explain, well, why is this group worships him is able to overcome us? They got to give you a narrative to explain what's going on, because they believe something's going on up there that's allowing these actions to take place in the earth. And when you don't understand this background information, you can't really explain, well, why are these things happening in the Bible? Are you following me? So eventually, Mut gets Baal to get off his throne. Anat, she's like responsive, like, okay, we got to find out what's going on. And what happens to Baal? He's killed. So Baal's dead. And then they send his body back to El. So El is mourning over Baal. That's deep. That's interesting. But wind up, later on in the story, he gets restored. Mut is actually killed, and he resurrects. And then they fight to the death. Baal defeats Mut, and now he's the rightful ruler. Now, you're going to see a story from King Karet, who's one of the rulers, they don't know if he's mythical or historical, that was ruling Ugaritic. And he represents the throne of Baal on the earth. That's deep. He represents the throne of Baal on the earth. And guess what he calls Baal once he's sitting on the throne ruling, and Baal is his patron deity, he calls Baal Elyon. Okay, let's keep moving. Let me move. So go to Exodus chapter 14, verse 2.
Tell the people of Israel to turn back and encamp in front of, what's that? Pihahirothoth.
Keep going.
Between Migdol and the sea. In front of Baal Zephon.
Wait, between Migdol and the sea. So if you're looking at a map, there we go, I got a map. Where's Migdol at and where's the sea? If anybody can recognize by looking at this map of Sinai in northwest Arabia. It's going to be in this region over here somewhere. Okay? No. Jerusalem is up here. It's going to be over here. It's going to be over here. You see where my hand is at? This sea is called what? The Gulf of what? The Gulf of Aqaba. Gulf of Aqaba is right here. The Gulf of Suez is right here. Gulf of Suez, Gulf of Aqaba. So this is taking place over here somewhere. Now some scholars say the route is this way. Some say the route was down here and across. I can tell you what I subscribe to, but you could go back and watch my videos. The bottom line is that Mount Zephon, who's there? Who's on that mountain? Baal. That's where his throne is at, on this mountain. And from there, he's ruling that region and the region of Canaan. So anybody that worships Baal, they know, oh, we know he's on Mount Zephon, but he's giving me the right to rule on his behalf in the earth. And because he's on the throne, and he's ruling over us, he's the most high. That's deep. It's deep. Deep. Okay. I just gave you Exodus. It's telling you Mount Zephon, Baal Zephon. That's where he rules. That's where he's at. This is what the people believed. But it's interesting because when we go to meet YHWH later on, he comes from a mountain too. Oh, y'all like what? Yeah. He comes from a mountain too. I didn't make this up. It's in the text. We're going to get to that. It's part 2. So if you want to see a reference, if you go to the same book, Religious Text from Ugaritic, pages 388 to 390, you'll get a reference to him being enthroned on Mount Ziphon. It's there in the text. Page 388 to page 390. And I would read it, but I want to save some time, all right? Now look at this. In the Ugaritic tablets, there's another narrative about a king correct who acknowledges El and asks El for intercession and assistance as the head of the divine council, but he sacrifices to and worships Baal. And he's the earthly king that represents whatever power on behalf that he's ruling on in the heavenly realm, which at this time is Baal. This is all going on that's causing a lot of confusion and stuff, and this is when El takes his back seat, tries to intercede, things are going on, so now El has to say, okay, now I gotta really step in and do something about this. This is really deep stuff, man. Text reference, KTU 1.14 to 1.16. And I'm not gonna read it, I'll probably do it on a live stream or something like that, but I just wanna get through this since we only got a few more slides, all right? Go see the reference in the religious text. Actually, let me just read for you these footnotes real quick. And the reason why I want to read is because you're going to see something that's really deep, that's going to make sense later on. Okay? This is pages 176 to page 243. It explains this part for you about King Correct, right? But the emphasis is on these 4 pages, and it's only like small little footnotes I want to read for you. It's really deep. Okay? Y'all want me to read it or skip past it? Okay. It says, lift up your hands to heaven, sacrifice to bull your father El, because he's entreating El for assistance on something. But it says, serve Baal with your sacrifice, listen to this, the son of Dagon, with your food. Whoa. Baal is the son of Dagon? Do y'all know who Dagon is? No. Somebody tell somebody that know and don't know what's going on here. But Dagon is the deity of what people? The Philistines. Wow, this is deep. There's a connection there. So when you see this stuff going on, like in the text, there's something going on in the heavenly realm, some stuff is going on. Then come down correct from the roof, prepare food for the city, wheat for the house of Kabur, right? So the next page I'm going to get, it's only 2 more pages. The next page I'm going to get is, which one? 198. 198. Thank you so much for y'all paying attention. I appreciate that. This makes it much easier for me. Okay, you said 198, right? All right, 198. 189. 191. That's what the text says. There's some kind of connection going on there, and we're going to find out.
It's a god with a fish head.
Yes, the god is supposed to be the fish god. Dag can also mean grain, or it can also mean fish. Depends upon what context you're looking at it in. But it's the fish god deity of the Philistines. So now the Philistines, they have a deity that they worship. And that deity was at odds with YHWH. Yay? Okay, just saying, I don't know if y'all understood that, but just wanted to pull it out there. All right, this is, again, he lifted up his hands to heaven. He sacrificed the bull, his father El. He served Baal with his sacrifice, the son of Dagon with his food. More emphasis. Next page is 206. And I'm going to show you the footnote at 136 real quick.
And he is who?
That's King Correct.
King Correct.
Yes. All right, so watch this. I'm going to read this for you. It says here, the sons of Ramai, Prince Resheph, and the assembly of the gods in threes. Now, there's a footnote, 136. And what you're going to see here is something really interesting. Because in the Bible, you see like the sons of Elohim, you see angels, you see the Most High. The question is, what does any of that mean? Is there a hierarchy? Are there different levels to this? Footnote 136 says, the assembly of the gods translates the 3 categories thereof. So there's 3 categories of powers that's in the heavenly realm. You have your lesser deities, which is your Malakim, your messengers, right? The border crosses, that's another subject matter. You have your divine council members, that we see here, and then you have El at the top. 1, 2, 3. Those messengers, they work for one of the divine council members. Are y'all feeling me? And then you have El at the top. 3 different categories. So when you read sister cultures and you read their tablets and their literature, they give you a little bit more data that you can utilize to understand some form of context in the biblical narrative.
What was the bottom tier again?
Is the lesser deities, the messengers, or the border crosses. The ones that really go from the heavenly realm, where the first 2 layers is, to the earthly realm. They're the ones that go forth and bring messages that work on behalf of the deity and take the name of the deity when they go to deliver a message. In some cases. That's deep. Because you're going to see some character called the angel of the Lord. What is that? Who is he? Who does he represent? All right. The last reference, I'm going to leave alone. I really just wanted to point that out for y'all to see what's going on here. Because some people will say, oh no, the Elohim in the scriptures, those are all angels. Well, when you read sister cultures, it kind of like eliminates that. I know it's a lot. Oh, you got a question? Okay, let me wrap up so I can get your question. I don't know where my cursor is at.
So there are 3 categories of heavenly powers,
Correct.
and these are considered the assembly of God.
Correct. Or the divine council. Now, again, I'm just giving you the data. What you want to believe from here is on you. You can disagree with it, that's fine. I'm just trying to give you a narrative. Okay.
The sons of God appeared before God.
You're talking about Job chapter 2, verse 1? Uh-oh. Those are the messengers that go to the earth and do their business and have to come back and report to the council. That's deep.
How does devil relate to that?
That's a good question. Uh-oh.
How does that relate to what?
That's a great question. I wish I could answer it. Let me just finish this. That's deep. Because once I start showing you anything, I'm like, well, what is Hashatán? What is he coming? Who is he? Who does he represent? What adversary is he? Okay.
And then you got
So this reference just goes into the Baal is the son of Dagon, and this could be a rendering that Baal could be believed he was fathered by either El or Dagon. There's some kind of discussion in academia. I just want to give you a reference for it by Noga Ayali Darshan of the Hebrew University. It's called Baal, son of Dagon, in search of Baal's double paternity. And I try to use sources that you can go and find yourself online. I don't want to have some book that I'm hiding somewhere and I'm getting information out and y'all can't get access to it to see if Divine's telling the truth. I'm giving you free sources, you can go and find these things yourself, all right? So we almost done. Now here's the final part. We get into the end. El initiates a covenant. Now mind you, El stepped back. Baal and them doing their thing. So when El steps back, he's giving the rule back to the deities because they keep messing up. So we saw the epic of Baal, right? He's given Yam the throne. Baal gets mad, fights, kills Yam. He sits on the throne. He's deceived to come off the throne by Mut. Mut kills him. He's restored or resurrected. Mut is restored. They fight. He kills Mut and he's back on the throne. Baal is on the throne. But something is very interesting here. When this narrative was written, it was written by the people of Ugaritic. But there was another group of people that influenced this narrative in support of their chief deity, Baal. Now, see, when you understand this stuff, you get some patches in the scriptures and be like, man, I don't understand why this is written here. You got to understand ancient Near Eastern context. El initiates a covenant with Abraham as who? El Shaddai. The one that's destructive. Remember that? Drag, to draw, to obstruct, deal violently with. That's deep. He's trying to make a point. There's a reason why he's getting that epithet. Somebody's mad. Did y'all hear what I said? Somebody's mad and wants to deal violently about a situation. There's some power that wants to deal violently or obstruct or intervene and do something. because some kind of madness is going on. Are you following me? So his descendants can judge who? For exalting Baal, demoting El, and plaguing the land. This is heavy, man. This is really deep. Y'all need to look up the Amorite kingdom, which is the Amorite kingdom, and see how the other indigenous people felt about the Amorites. They was not very liked. But they were the ones that represented Baal. Are you following me? Let's get Genesis chapter 15, verse 7.
All right. Genesis chapter 15, starting at
Because when you read this at first, you're going to be like, what does that mean? I don't understand that. Read it.
And he said to him, I am the Lord who brought you out from Ur.
So this is El Shaddai talking to who? Abraham, right? Read.
Of the Chaldeans, to give you this land to possess. But he said, O Lord God, how am I to know that I shall possess it? He said to him, bring me a heifer 3 years old, a female goat 3 years old, a ram 3 years old, a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. And he brought him all these.
Now he brought these out of clean animals. Now I don't know how no one knows this. I'm assuming Abraham knows this, but maybe somebody explain it to him. But keep going.
And he brought him all these, cut them in half, and laid each half over against the other. But he did not cut the bird in half. And when birds of prey came down on the carcasses, Abraham drove them away.
Okay, keep going.
As the sun was going down.
Now I explained this in a lecture I did before, so I'm not going to really get into that part. But this is how covenants are consummated between two parties. If it's a deity and if it's a man. You got to cut the man. The deity says, look, this is what I want to do for you. The man's like, okay. In order for that to take place, you got to have a contract. So back then, a deity and a man, how do they officiate the contract? Well, the man gets certain animals requested by the deity. He cuts the animals in half, separates them like this. He goes away somewhere, comes back, and then he sees the deity passing through the sacrifice. That word berit, look it up. This is what's going on here. This is saying, okay, now I've accepted your sacrifice. You've agreed by means of killing this animal, which means you could die too. You're giving up your life and as a vow to the deity, to obey the deity. And the deity is saying, okay, I've accepted the sacrifice. I'm passing through. Now the contract is complete. Let's start. Let's get it going. Keep reading.
As the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell on Abram, and behold, dreadful and great darkness fell upon him. Then the Lord said to Abram, know for certain that your offspring will be sojourners in the land.
Listen to this.
That is not theirs, and will be servants.
Now slow down. A land that's not theirs, there'll be servants there because there's already a people there. There's already deities that's ruling there. Keep going.
And they will be afflicted for 400 years. But I will bring judgment on the nation that they serve.
Judgment. Wait. Remember reading the text where it says that El's judging the gods of Egypt? There's some beef going on in the heavenly realm. And this text that actually explains that. But I'm not going to get into that today. Keep going.
But I will bring judgment on the nation that they serve. And afterwards they shall come out with great possession. And for you, you shall go to your fathers in peace.
Now listen to this part.
You shall be buried in a good old age.
Keep going.
And they shall come back here in the 4th generation. For the iniquity.
Wait, for what?
The iniquity.
The iniquity
of the Amorites. Is not yet complete.
Is not yet complete. So something is going on. What you mean the iniquity of the Amorites? What are the Amorites doing that is defiling the land that they had to be judged for? The Amorites was the ethnic group of people that inspired and influenced the whole region of the Levant to serve and worship the great deity Baal. And as a result, there are things that they're doing in that land that's deemed unrighteous by El that they have to be judged for. Again, another background for El having to step in and take care of some business. Because the divine council members are not doing what they're supposed to do, and as a result, the people following them are also not doing what they're supposed to do. Are y'all following? Yes. Okay. Maybe you need some kind of background on this. Vine offers a more precise historical view of the cycle. Distancing his position from the early historical interpretations of Viro, Leod, and Obermann, Vine argues that the Baal cycle reflects the rise of the Amorites at Ugaritic in the 21st or 20th century BC. With the emergence of the Amorites, Baal, the new god of the Amorites, you heard what I said? The new god of the Amorites replaced El, the local god. So now the people worship El, but for some reason El was distant, and in the process, another people brought their deity in, and now the scribes of Ugaritic had to pay homage to this deity. This is why the Amorites is charged with iniquity and the sight of El Shaddai, and he has to destroy, obstruct, deal violently with the Amorites. This is a foreshadowing of El doing something in the future to deal with this situation, this problem that's happening. But he can't act at that point. There's some rules of engagement in the heavenly realm that first need to be satisfied, which means the people need to be given a chance to repent. See this? That's how he dealt with Israel. He gave him hundreds of years to repent. And then after a certain period of time, then he has to judge. Are y'all following me? It's kind of heavy, I know. So now they come in ages. In a similar vein, Oldenburg suggests that the rivalry between Baal and the family of El and Ashtaroth reflects a tension in their cults at Ugaritic during the second millennium. Remember, different groups of people are here with their different deities. They fight amongst each other. This group is ruling for a period of time. They lose to another group because something's going on up there that's reflecting on the earth. That's what they believed during that time. Could be similar today. All the action, political stuff that we see going on, could be some deities that's fighting up there. Some kind of action in the heavenly realm. You're going to be like, yo, Divine, you making that up. That's not in the Bible. Okay. Like Vine, Oldenburg views Baal Hadu as an Amorite god. So Hadad or Hadu is another, really the personal name of which Baal we're talking about. There's more than one Baal. Baal just means Lord, Master, you know what I'm saying, ruler, husband. Baal also means husband. Husband. But it's different Baals. But in this case, the particular one that they're talking about is Hadad or Hadu, the one that's enthroned where? Where's his throne at? Mount Zebon. So the Amorites brought Baal in, and we see that Baal's a little unstable in the narrative. He's doing things the way he wants to do things. He becomes their storm deity. Because if they're in a drought, you pray to this deity, he brings rain. The lightning is representative of his power, his authority. But then later on, YHWH is considered the storm god. With lightning. How does that happen? Is there a fight? Does something occur? Is this really El doing this? Is this a separate deity doing this? Stay tuned next time on I'm just playing with y'all. So let me give you a summary of part 2, because we're done here, and then I'll take it up some other time. So what did we learn today? Just tell me what you learned today. I'm going to give you some insight into part 2, and then if you have a few questions, not too many, because we want to eat, then I'll let you go. What did you learn today so far? Anybody?
There's a council.
Okay, council, according to what?
Sister culture.
Sister cultures and grammar rules in Hebrew. Because remember, Elohim doesn't always mean a council, but we'll see in certain contexts, like Psalm 82 is a good example of that. It depends on how the syntax of the sentence is, right? So divine council, what else? Three categories. El, who else? It's El, one category. Divine council. And then the messengers or the border crossers. Excellent. Anything else?
What? With the El, divine council, and what was the other one?
The messengers.
Messengers.
Correct. There's always a distinction between sons of El and Malachim. There's a reason for that.
And these three things are what?
These different categories
Categories
of entities in the heavenly realm. Yeah, in the heavenly realm. Correct.
Malachim are the border.
Correct. They're the messengers that go and actually interface. So you'll see in the text where like angels is killing people, wiping people out, stuff like that. They work on behalf of one of these divine council. And then El is the one that proceeds over the council and he's the one that oversees what's going on. But we want to find out what's his connection with YHWH. Remember what El Shaddai means. We're going to see that. We're going to see destruction going on to these people that are going to get judged called the Amorites. It's deep. Anything else? Anything else you learned? Methodology is important.
It's based on origin stories.
Uh-huh.
So that we can attain the concept of identity and where it came from.
Correct. By looking at data, stringing the data together, giving a conclusion from the data, and then interpreting that conclusion to the people. Anything else? One last point. Y'all learned something today?
That each group of people went to war, and who won, their God represents them.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Anybody younger? Because the elders is turning up. That's deep.
I said there are a group of people who go to war, fighting each other, and whoever wins, their God takes over. Right. Yes, areas. Right.
And remember, also, the Tower of Babel is real. Y'all forgot that. That's a good one right there. All right, so let me give you some insight to part 2, and we're done. So I know this wasn't really the juiciest information, but there's a lot of background information. In part 2, we're going to go into Moshe encountering YHWH because he met him somewhere. He didn't meet him in Egypt.
Say it again. That's right.
Okay, wait. So Moshe encounters a deity called YHWH in Midian, not in Egypt. YHWH has to explain to Abraham, hey, I'm really El Shaddai, the power of destruction. Oh, y'all missed that. Wait a second. Wait. So look. See, this is part 2. Come on, man. You gotta let me say this part 2. Moses encountered some deity called YHWH. Moses don't know who this deity is. The deity has to assert himself to Moses and explain, I'm El Shaddai that your forefathers knew. I'm El Shaddai. And Shaddai, we think it means, oh, this means almighty. No, no, no. To deal violently, destruction, to despoil, to drag. Oh, so something about to go down. Because we see YHWH take them to war, to take spoil, to wipe and slave groups of people. That's El Shaddai. It's a covenant he made because of the Amorites and their iniquity, serving Baal and allowing corruption to happen in the land. Hence why Yah told the people, do not follow the ways, do not imitate what the other nations do. It's a standard that if you keep it, I'll keep you. Then we get to the Exodus, a period of the Judges, which is some really interesting stuff about the heavenly realm. That's where we find out that the stars of heaven, they are doing something that then reflects on the earth. It's deep. I don't know if y'all know what I'm talking about. You heard of the Song of Deborah? Read that. Sisera, who's that? Sisera, who's that? I think Sisera, I'm saying right. Who's that?
He's the guy that got killed.
By who? Yael, right? Because Barak initially was too scared to go to war, so Deborah had to get him to man up. So Barak said, I'm going to go kill this guy. Deborah said, no, 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 it's going to happen at the hands of a woman. Yael drives a tent peg in his head, but what happens is, before that had to take place, in the song they identify that the stars of heaven, things are going on up here, that's then reflected on the earth. It's deep. YHWH defeats Yah. Oh, we have that? In the Bible? Yeah, it's there. Dagon and Baal. Did you know this is in the Bible? Did you know that YHWH defeats Yah? The same thing that Baal had to do? Yeah, the whole battle and everything is in the Bible. You're going to be like, what? You're going to get into it, read the book of Psalms. It's deep. Because if you don't understand ancient Near Eastern culture and literature, then you're not going to know what's going on. Why is David singing about this happening? What is he talking about? David's war campaigns enthrones YHWH in the region of Levant. Now this is deep. Because remember, King Karet and the Amorites king and Ugaritic kings, when they was ruling, they ruled on behalf of a deity that empowered them to do that. They were just a reflection of the deity's rule in the heavenly realm. Baal has been given a throne for a certain period of time, ruling over a certain group of people. But now, because he wasn't able to do what he's supposed to do, time is up. So somebody else gets to move on in. It's deep. But when David wins and subdues the nations, all the nations' deities now are subservient to the deity that David worships. Because now, the only one that can sit on that throne has to be YHWH. But who is YHWH? Is he a separate deity? Is he an extension of El? Well, who's this? It's deep. And then we're going to see the YHWH epic, and we're going to see how it compares with the Baal epic. It's interesting. And the really good piece is the holy arm of El is revealed as YHWH. Damn, I just gave it up. That's okay. It's like El is the puppet master, and YHWH is the puppet.
Well, when is he not the puppet?
It's deep. Huh? I'm not gonna get into. No, don't ask no question about that. Wait for part 2. And now, mind you, so YHWH is enthroned legally because they fighting and everything. This is how the rules of engagement. Israelites are tempted to betray YHWH and worship Baal. So now what you're doing is you're removing YHWH off his throne, and you're giving that rule and reign back to Baal. When that happens, then YHWH has to succeed the land and kick the people out so the new owners or the new deity can move on in. It's deep. But the deeper thing is that YHWH did not just claim a land, he claimed a people. This is different than what the other is deep. It's deep. And then you get to exile, and then I give you a conclusion that will blow your mind. So whenever Minister Carnes wants to schedule it, I'll do part 2.
Next week.
He said next week, tomorrow. There's a lot of deep stuff here, but this will help, me giving you this narrative will help to kind of harmonize and make sense of what's going on in the scriptures when you read it. Okay, so now questions. Yes.
I want to know, okay, what the ones going to be fighting in heaven and throwing them out?
I'm not going to reveal that yet. That's deep. Say that again, Mom. That's deep. You don't remember reading the Bible where there's some war in heaven? Y'all be like, no, that stuff ain't real. Ain't nobody fighting in heaven. The rest of the text says there's a war in heaven. And somebody gets kicked out. I'm trying to give you some background information. Okay, yes.
The Amorites. And the Amorites in the scripture that says to the time of the Gentile has been how those two relate.
Well, that's not the Amorites at that point, but the Gentiles now, because the land has been given over into the hands of the Gentiles, because the Israelites keep disobeying, the Gentiles and their deities get a time period to rule until YHWH, who's also, or maybe also, I can't really reveal it, El Shaddai has to come back and destroy the nations for their iniquity and what they did to the people that YHWH possessed. So it's not just what they're doing in the land, it's what you did to my people. Yes.
Because Moshe was going back and forth, he considered another king? Or no?
Who, Moshe?
Moshe, yes. I mean, I know it said it's in the heavenly realm. Yeah.
Well, the Most High said, I'm going to make you as a god unto who?
Yeah.
To Pharaoh.
Yeah.
That's representative of something that's going on. Okay? We'll leave that open-ended, yes.
How does this relate to the first commandment?
The first commandment? Okay.
Okay. And then the next question is, yeah, that we'll just stop there.
How does this relate to the first commandment in regards to the Israelites? Because the first commandment was given to the Israelites and the sojourning strangers with them. It wasn't given to the other peoples in the land, just to the Israelites.
Right.
Okay. So this is not a violation of that, if that's what you're asking.
Okay, so it's not a violation?
No.
Okay, because these are lesser gods.
Correct. These are other deities that are not the patron deity of Israel. They did not contract with Israel. See, what happens is when Israel tries to breach a contract and get another deity to represent them, that other deity can't act on their behalf because that other deity is not allowed to make a new contract when there's already a pre-existing contract. This is why when Elijah is fighting against the prophets of Baal, the prophets of Baal can't fight on their behalf because those Israelites are still in contract with YHWH. It's deep.
is, maybe you'll answer this part two, so YHWH is he M?
I'm not saying that now. I don't know. Stay tuned. Yes.
Okay, so firstly, thank you for the lesson. A lot of important information here for sure. I'm looking forward to part two. So at the beginning of the lesson, you mentioned El Shaddai, meaning to deal with violently.
Correct.
Blah, blah, right? And so we went into actually what El Shaddai means.
Correct.
And so El Shaddai is actually a title.
Correct.
And so similar to you're a husband.
Correct.
Also a father.
Correct.
But your name is wrong, right?
Correct.
When we look at Exodus 6, verse 3,
Correct.
the Most High himself, actually, and you cited this earlier as well, the Most High actually mentioned this verse where he tells the Israelites to Moses, I revealed myself to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as the
Correct.
destroyer, as the one that drags
Correct.
all these different meanings, but I didn't give them my name.
Personal
which is
name.
my personal name. So,
Correct.
and I can hurry up and wait, or you can tell me to hush a little bit because this is really
Yeah, we'll reserve that. Because we're going to get to Moses in part
so
two.
this is my point then. So
Yes.
if El Shaddai is a title, Elyon as well is a title,
Correct.
but the actual name is Yahweh or Yahuwah, then these other deities are not necessarily, I would call them deities. They're somehow in, you mentioned some 3-level stuff.
Correct.
They're somehow existing in these levels, but they actually don't have the creative power or
course.
any kind of power
As El.
Okay.
Correct. You're 100% right. But the connection, I can't talk on that yet, but I will. Gotcha.
Okay.
Yes.
Judges chapter 2, verse 1. Who is that?
Can you read it? I mean, I know a lot of stuff, but I don't know everything about time. All right, so while he grabs that, yes, sis.
I wanted to know the source of the KTU or the inspiration. How is this information about these other deities? We know who wrote what books of the scripture. Who wrote this KTU?
So this was done by the scribes at Ugaritic, and you can look up Ugaritic itself. Its current site is called Rosh Shamra. That's the site. That's what it's called today. And they uncovered a repository of tablets there that was written by scribes. And it wasn't just these kind of epics. It's a lot of other legal things and stuff like that. But that book that you see, it goes through the corpus of all those things, and you can get it for free online. And you can read it, and it'll give you the preface. It'll explain all that for you.
So these were witnesses to these things, or
Well,
were
they
inspired?
correct. They were inspired to write this narrative to explain what's going on in the earthly realm from things that are taking place in the heavenly realm. You got it? Okay, what is it?
It says the angel of Yah came up from Gilgal to Bochim. He said, I made you to go up out of Egypt and have brought you to the land which I swore to your fathers. And I said, will never break my covenant with you, and you shall make no covenant with the inhabitants of the land. You shall break down.
What you said, they should not make no covenant with them.
Right.
Because it's not going to work. I already own you. Until I abdicate or change or remove that contract, it's still existing.
But my whole thing is, who is it?
Who is who? The angel?
The angel of Yah.
That's part two.
My whole thing was, if it was him that made the covenant, that means, are you trying
You think so? Who spoke to Moses?
That's what I'm saying.
We're going to find out. Because Moses had to go to a mountaintop to see the council. That's deep. Oh, wait. Isaiah in chapter 6, he saw the council too. And then Moses, I said, look, Moses, you see what's up here? I need you to create this tabernacle, this ark, according to what you see up here. That's why he came down, his face was glowing, because it's believed that he went up to another portal, another realm, and he was able to see things on the mountaintop. This is what they believe, mountaintop theology. They believe that the deities resided on the top of the mountains, because the mountains go all the way up, pierce through the clouds. And mind you, you see in the scriptures, the cloud rider, YHWH is the cloud rider, Baal's called the cloud riders, because they believe that they actually was on top of the clouds and it was riding around and things were taking place in the heavenly realm. Now, Moses was brought all the way up to the mountain peak to see these things, and as a reflection of what he saw, his face glowed so much that people can even look upon Moses. But the question is, who actually gave Moses the commandments? Who was he speaking to? When a burning bush was burning, what did the text say? Who was that? Text is clear.
Part two.
Yeah, part two.
Okay, so we know that Israel is scattered.
Correct.
So YHWH still has
we still, even though, we build whatever, we still in covenant.
Yeah, because he said in Deuteronomy 32:9 that his YHWH portion is Jacob. Not just the land, because he knew in advance they may not stay in the land. But wherever Jacob's seed is at, YHWH will be there.
Okay, the second part to the question is, what about the Israelites who don't know the covenant with
Other deities?
Yeah, how that work?
So, and that's why when you try to covenant with another deity, when there's already a pre-existing contract, I wish Frank was here. Frank is a lawyer. Brian is there too. I don't know if Brian deals with contract law. Nah. But the point I'm trying to make is there's already a pre-existing contract that goes for the beneficiaries and the benefactors, whether they know it or not. If I write a will, and I have my daughter and my son, and I put them in my will, and I die, whether they know about the will or not, they're still the benefactors of my estate, right? Unless they violate whatever clause is in there and they abdicate over to the state or another entity. But whether they know or not, a pre-existing contract already exists where they're already contracted into my will, therefore they're still benefactors of. But now, they may not enjoy the benefits because they don't know, but the moment that they wake up and say, wow, I have an estate, so a lot of movies made on stuff like this. They go back and say, whoa, my dad left this in my name, left the video recording, say, hey, my son, I know I've been in your life for a long time, but I'm leaving this for you because I love you. I had to go because something happened or whatever the case may be, and now when they wake up, now we can take on these blessings. But the consequences of abandoning the contract is now you're going to be subject to whatever the other deities or other nations is going on, and the only way for us to get any kind of solace is to call on the Most High.
Ron,
So
I think I can clear something up. And they talk about the angels.
Go ahead.
I used to work for the Solicitor General in Fulton County. Keith Gammage is
Okay.
the Solicitor General. Like Keith Gammage, he's not L, but he's L. I was an assistant Solicitor General, so I would be an angel. So when you come to court and I'm dealing and I give you this indictment, it's not me. You're speaking on behalf of me.
There you go.
Absolutely, yeah.
Stop messing up my lesson, bro.
So I guess to ask who was the angel, well, actually, when I left the office, it doesn't matter. It's another one comes. So trying to figure out who's the angel is kind of pointless.
It's just who it represents, because they're coming with the same authority and power of whoever they're representing, like a diplomat.
My signature can dismiss your case. Even
On behalf of.
Even on my signature, it's not.
There you
it's
go.
a valid point because it's the same thing we see happening in Daniel when there was a message coming delivered from him. And that messenger said, hey, I was held up a little bit.
Wait, don't get into this juicy stuff. Let's wait. Okay.
You mentioned before.
We're gonna talk about it afterwards because Minister wants to wrap it up. So we come out to me after. But what I want to say, thank you everybody for coming out. I hope this was an engaging, very interesting and intriguing lecture. Remember, I'm just giving you my narrative based on the data that I'm looking at and trying to explain some things that otherwise you wouldn't understand by reading the text from surface value. So please stay tuned for part 2. Thank you for watching. I love you all, and shalom, family.